and welcome to the next episode of CRE Corner. I am David Fuller-Watts and I'm your host. Today we're talking about the power of placemaking. And for this important topic, I am delighted to be welcomed by Donna Howitt, the Director of Placemaking and Place Strategy at Liverpool One Shopping Centre in the UK. Hi, Donna.
Hi, David.
Donna, I love talking to you about placemaking and strategy around the community and particularly around retail destinations. And I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your role and what you do just shortly. But what we ask everyone on the podcast is to name their favourite commercial building. And before you say Liverpool One, I'm going to have to ask you not to mention them, your alternative favourite commercial building and the reasons why.
Oh, David, that's a tricky one because you said I can't mention Liverpool, which without meaning to be biased, I would say. And that's really what I was going to talk about. So you've caught me unaware there. I think, given the industry that I work in, I guess for me, I would look towards the likes of Edinburgh in terms of really great commercial real estate, Edinburgh St. James, and what that's actually done for the retail heart of the city. Because I think what they're doing well is really thinking about the city in which Edinburgh St. James is invested in. I think it's done a really brilliant job at presenting itself in terms of what it can offer as a place to live. It's the quality of life that it enhances in Edinburgh, which itself is a really unique city and something which really recognises the role of heritage. I'm going to say similar to Liverpool, but I won't for fear of sounding biased. Edinburgh St. James for me is a significant, I think, development in that capital city that has really underperformed and it hasn't realised its retail potential up until very recently. Mixed use and really quite unique. When you introduced this just now, you actually did say a shopping centre for Liverpool One, which I've never called it a shopping centre, and I wouldn't call Edinburgh St. James a shopping centre either. It's a location and it's a retail destination at the heart of a very iconic city that's built on its heritage. So that to me is something I've probably got more of an affinity with.
Yeah, I love that property as well. That's a great answer, actually. So sorry for putting you on the spot, but good answer there. Tell us a little bit about your role. It's an unusual role, but when you think about it, it's not really that unusual because it's a large part of what you do. So tell us a little bit about it, how it came about and kind of what your remit is.
Okay, so I joined Liverpool One at the very beginning. In fact, before it even opened to the public, I was approached to initially lead on the development of the brand and marketing strategy for what was then the largest regeneration project of its kind. It's a £1 billion regeneration project. But as I say, we don't say shopping centre because Liverpool One is 42 acres of Liverpool city centre. And since then, my role has vastly expanded. It's evolved and it's never stood still. That's dating back from 2007 to the present day. And I came from a background of outlet shopping, which was really quite different, although that was way back with Macarthur Glen. 7 of those centres across the UK, quite different in their appeal, but very different from Liverpool One, which is that mixed use retail and leisure destination. So from establishing the brand, leading on the marketing function and the development of our tenant relationships. So I oversee the management of all of our tenants and tenant performance. But it's beyond that because with Liverpool One being such a significant part of the city centre, my role is broader again because it involves collaboration with some really important stakeholders in the city itself. And Liverpool itself sits within the heart of the Liverpool City region. As a region is really benefiting from a growing visitor economy. So tourism is fundamental. It accounts for around 25% of all visitors into Liverpool One alone. So as Director of Place and Development of the Place Strategy, we have to think Liverpool One cannot operate and cannot succeed in isolation of the wider city and the region in which it sits. So that collaboration, that strategic mindset and that ability to be able to connect with stakeholders for the vision and the growth and prosperity of the region is actually critical to the success of Liverpool One itself. So what began as a very clear marketing and brand role and function over years has become essential in terms of place brand, because if the place brand isn't right and the collaboration and the connection isn't right, then the tenants that we're responsible for ensuring that they thrive and that they are prosperous and locations where they want to continue to trade that becomes a reality. It becomes very interconnected with the wider city and indeed the region.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting how Liverpool One has developed itself as that destination. But Liverpool is one of the most famous cities in the world and therefore attracts a lot of tourism, a lot of visitors. And what I love about what you just said there is the kind of connection that you have with the wider city community. And of course, you've had a number of initiatives that you've run and a number of opportunities to showcase the city over the last 24 months, really. So maybe talk to us about some of those initiatives that have taken place and how you've had to think about that from a placemaking perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we think about how Liverpool One was designed, it was seamlessly integrated with the rest of the city. You've been to Liverpool yourself, and it's not always obvious when are you in Liverpool One and when aren't you. There is some subtle branding around and about, but there's no big entrance signs as such to say you are now in Liverpool One. And that just demonstrates that since the very beginning, we've worked hard to connect people with the place and the way that we've integrated Liverpool One into the city. So there's some really great examples as to some of the placemaking, I guess, that's always on, that's always there. And I think one really great example was the development of a self-guided heritage trail. It actually sits on our app and it gives visitors the opportunity to self-navigate throughout Liverpool One. There's 16 points of interest where they can stop, they can look around them, and they can listen to some audio that really takes them back through time. It's 350 years of history on the exact footprint that Liverpool One is built. And indeed, we've got the world's first old dock, which is buried deep below the car park, and a collaboration with National Museums Liverpool, really, really popular last year. In fact, fully booked on most of their tours, particularly through the peak weeks of Easter and summer. So that's always there. And that's how our place and our heritage, one really great example of how we bring that to life. But throughout the year, there's a real focus to ensure that a welcome and vibrant experience awaits for visitors when they come in. And that's delivered through a packed events programme, or what we might call enlivenment of the estate. Perhaps the most successful programme I think that we've had, that's been running for this year, actually it'll be 14 years, of a festival called Tickle the Ivories, which is a piano busking festival. 6 pianos placed across Liverpool One for several weeks every summer. It attracts talent from young musicians, people that have never sat down and played at a piano before, that go, oh, you know what, I really fancy the idea of this, and they've gone on to actually discover something that they didn't think they may have enjoyed. And you walk around Liverpool One and you literally hear music from one street corner to the next. And a lot of work goes into that to keep those pianos tuned, to bring them in when it's wet, to put them back out again, to work with artists who design them. And the art is always reflective of the city and an opportunity for grassroots artists to be able to showcase their talents as well. And a particular highlight for Tickle the Ivories, I think, for me, was the return of a wonderful young man, Brad Keller, who some people might be familiar with that name because Brad recently, just at the end of last year, won Channel 4's hit series, The Piano. And he was discovered first playing the piano at Liverpool One. He didn't even know he could play. He can't read music. He can just listen to it and play. And he came back to Liverpool One just before Christmas to perform for visitors again. And this is a guy he actually came through the care system in Liverpool, and he can play the piano and he stops visitors in their tracks. He's sold out at the Philharmonic Theatre. He's played at the Royal Albert Hall. And that's just a real success story from some placemaking that has just become a staple part of the Liverpool One experience. But I've also mentioned events there as well, and thinking about that wider city. There's so many highlights, but I think there's probably 2 that I think are really worth sharing with you. And the first one is just going back to 2023, which was the Eurovision Song Contest held in Liverpool. And just last year, Taylor Swift performed at Anfield, and the city celebrated that by bringing in what was called a Taylor Town Trail. So there were 11 installations across the city to celebrate each of Taylor Swift's albums and the Eras tour. 3 of those installations were staged in Liverpool One. And that just provided something completely different. Both Eurovision or Taylor Swift, music is inherent in Liverpool, but we bring that to life within the streets of Liverpool One. Retailers benefited, restaurants absolutely benefited as people come into Liverpool to enjoy what the wider city has to offer, but then head and navigate right into the heart of the city, and they're able to feel part of it, even if they had a ticket. And believe me, there are a lot of people in Liverpool that didn't have tickets for Eurovision Song Contest, but absolutely felt as if they were part of the whole festival and the whole contest, because we had a huge stage up on Chivas Park, which is a 5-acre park that actually sits on, it's the largest green roof, I think, in the UK, and sits on top of our car park. but people could come in, they could be entertained on the pianos, they could enjoy the performances on the stage, and it felt very European. We were very fortunate with the weather as well. But there are examples, just two things in terms of major events. River of Light is another one that we'll look forward to again later this year, and River of Light is delivered by Liverpool City Council with a number of stakeholders, of which Liverpool One is one of those, and it attracts both local residents and tourists to come in and enjoy the city centre during the autumn months when it's getting dark, and that ability for them to get around and see Liverpool, and importantly enjoy its architecture as well, because Liverpool's been famed for putting on some major events, and some people might remember the giants that paraded through Liverpool as part of the Capital of Culture in 2008, but the city's real giants are its buildings, and there's some fantastic architecture across Liverpool One, but certainly across the waterfront and the wider city. And I think that placemaking on a city level is something that Liverpool One continue to contribute to, help to co-curate and very much be part of.
Yeah, I think that's key. It's about having the iconic nature of the buildings themselves. And like you say, it's very open, Liverpool One. But it must take quite a big effort to collaborate with all those different parts and different pieces of, say, the city council. And I know that there are other agencies and groups set up to help the formation of this. How does Liverpool One really play a lead role in that?
Yeah, we're intrinsically linked in with City Council and wider stakeholders such as the Business Improvement District, who also operates some of the wider retail part of Liverpool city centre. There's a stakeholder group as well for the waterfront, which is certainly going from strength to strength and has some major attractions, including national museums. Liverpool, there's the Tate Gallery, which is currently under a refurbishment programme, and of course the M&S Bank Arena as well, which opened in 2008 at the same time as Liverpool One. So the connectivity with those organisations is key. Actually, the introduction of Eurovision Song Contest that I just spoke about there was a real boost to encouraging organisations to come together and really think about how we deliver placemaking, but consider it through the eyes of the visitor. Their arrival points into the city, be that by a bus or train or cruise, and how they navigate the city and get to enjoy. Essentially, Liverpool's quite a compact, walkable city, and that level of sort of collaboration with our partners, therefore, is absolutely critical. We also contribute significantly. I've mentioned visitor economy and tourism. I'm fortunate enough to have the flexibility to be able to sit with the local visitor economy partnership. So it's a structure that's very much recognised by Visit Britain for regions that it can work with effectively to help drive tourism into the city. I'm deputy chair for the City Regions LVEP, as it's known, and that's to ensure that stakeholders both across the city itself and the wider region are represented, and that the city can evolve. I guess its key aspects, in Liverpool, the things that are obvious that come to mind is music and culture, sport, and we have representation from all of those sectors on that board alongside myself and other stakeholders to ensure that we recognise those opportunities that can help to drive visitor numbers, that can boost tourism, and ensure that when people do visit, that as a city we are joined up in the way that we provide that visitor welcome.
Yeah, I think that's really key. And I guess another key aspect of it, it's great that the collaboration is there and it creates a very joined up approach and therefore attracts a lot of people to come to the city and to take part in the things that you do. But I guess ultimately, one of the key things is to make sure that customers visit Liverpool One and spend money in the shops and experience that. And retail's obviously changed and evolved and shopping habits have changed. It'd be interesting just to understand perhaps how you are capitalising on that work of placemaking into the kind of core retail spend and how you've perhaps evolved the retail mix and how that's come about to help with reflecting that change in customer behaviour.
Yeah, there's endless examples, and I could talk for a very long time about place and place shaping and the importance of the role of communities in particular, because that's what provides the difference. We don't want to be that homogenised high street that looks the same wherever you go, which means the importance of place, and you need to make sure that you provide that platform for communities and cultural organisations to showcase what they're all about, because that's what's inherently different from one city to the next, and that's important for all cities to not lose sense of its heritage and its identity. But with that, as you say, how do we ensure that the offer is right as tourists visit the city and as its local catchment continues to expand? And I think there the importance is to recognise that the one thing that's been a constant has actually been change, and the offer at Liverpool One has constantly evolved. certainly when Liverpool One opened with the team that were in place at the time, I think we had somewhere in the region of around 12 food and drink operators. And now there's in the region well upward of 40 or more. On the east side of our estate, I don't think there was a single restaurant. And now we've got some real critical mass in terms of some fantastic restaurants. So whilst I think Liverpool One, when it first opened, it was absolutely fantastic retail underpinned with some really lovely leisure. And now it's got some absolutely fantastic leisure at the forefront of its offer alongside that retail. Perhaps the best case in point might be Debenhams department store. Then in 2008, when opened, it was one of the key anchor tenants on an area, South John Street. John Lewis at one end, Debenhams at the other. Debenhams, as we well know, is no more on the high street. The anchor tenant there now is Gravity Max, which is huge. The flagship Gravity Max in Liverpool One offers everything from indoor golf and darts and arcades and a huge go-kart track that goes through what I think was the women's wear section of Debenhams. And it's a completely different unit and a completely different offer. And it works with the demographic that comes into Liverpool, and people come to Liverpool to enjoy their leisure time and they really enjoy to shop. So Gravity Max sits alongside brands like Escape Live, Junkyard Golf, and very recently, just at the back end of last year, we welcomed Flight Club. So competitive socialising and that ability to spend your time on the high street by enjoying experiences and consuming experiences is a key part of Liverpool city centre's economy, if you like. Now, the offer didn't look like that. I was going to say back in 2008, but I'll say even a decade ago. So the rate of change has been constant. Retail itself has become so much more trend-driven, I guess none more so than in Liverpool, and it's quite famed for setting its own style, a place where trends are set and records are broken. A great example of that is the trend for pop-up retail and the strength of commercial pop-ups that we've managed to attract into Liverpool. We had a brand last year called Sisters and Seekers. 6,000 people queued for that brand. A fair few people in the office had said, I've never heard of this brand. I've got teenage daughters, so I definitely had heard of that brand. But 6,000 people queued for Sisters and Seekers over the course of just a 2-day pop-up event. Another brands like Arn, Glamify, and very recently, as we came into New Year this year, not so long ago, Applied Nutrition opened a pop-up on Paradise Street. And that was to allow them to interact directly with the end consumer as a business that traditionally operates more sort of retailing through the likes of, say, a Holland and Barrett with health food supplements in the sports industry. So lots of change happening there. And then if we look, there's around 50 brands, I think, that opened at the very beginning with Liverpool One that are still trading in Liverpool One as well. But they're the stalwarts of the high street, if you like. And there's no better example, I don't think, than Zara at the back end of last year, significantly upsized, responding to local demand and achieving sales that actually put the Liverpool store in the top 3 in the world for its reopening event. So it performs hugely well. It recognised the value of Liverpool and doubled in size. So whether the stores remain but actually change their outfit and continue to evolve, or if stores come and go according to consumer demand, what we see is that continual change, and that's in line with consumer demand. And I think the way that social media in particular, and dare I say it, TikTok culture, is influencing what people are looking for on their high street. I think the key to success has to be the ability to realise that change and that speed of change as quickly as we have managed to do throughout our time at Liverpool One.
Yeah, and with that speed of change comes some challenges. You know, you've got the communication of the change and the ability to really onboard those retailers into the culture of Liverpool or the destination or the leisure outfit or whatever the new pop-up can be. What initiatives and tools are you using that are helping you allow those tenants to really get the best out of being part of Liverpool One?
I think the way that we manage our tenants, it's always been very proactive. So from quarterly tenant conferences to holding special focuses for forums with smaller groups to look at particular topics, it's just been business as usual for us. That's been something that we've been committed to since the very beginning. And we've built a community that I guess can access not just strong marketing support from the team here in Liverpool, but also ensuring that they access wider city opportunities. We work hard to make sure that they can get involved in major city events and business tourism, as an example. We talk to our tenants regularly. We are reliant on the app, which gives access to store managers from a reporting perspective, but actually we encourage those store managers to make sure that anybody working within their business in Liverpool, within their store, uses that app, and it allows us to talk to the wider community. I mean, at its seasonal peak, there could be upward of 4,000 people working across the Liverpool One estate. But what we discovered with that is to be able to talk to people working on our estate regularly has allowed us to sort of develop. I talk a lot about communities and the importance of communities, but the most important is really that community of tenants and people that work through multiple different employers across the estate, but they all work within the 42 acres of Liverpool One. And what we've done successfully over the last, I'd say probably 9 to 12 months, is to develop a programme that we call All for One, which is a social and wellbeing programme. And it's really proved valuable in providing social opportunities for those working across the estate to be able to come together and realise a real sort of sense of community. There's a lot of young people that work across retail and hospitality in the bars and the restaurants. And interestingly, some research that we delivered at the outset, we got some surprising feedback, which is whilst they're digitally connected very well, some reported that sense of feeling a bit isolated and a bit disconnected, if not even lonely at times. The All for One programme is something that we help deliver it in partnership with our tenants and put on different events. So it might be bowling at Gravity Max, it might be workshops at Cass Art, it might be a book club at Waterstones, or a run club that JD Sports have been really keen to work with us on. And we've had a huge attendance from people that, as I say, they work in all different stores, from the tiniest of Euro change right the way through to the likes of your John Lewis's. And what we've noticed is that sense of community done informally has allowed them, one, to enjoy themselves, two, to talk to each other about their own businesses, and also there's a secondary benefit to actually utilise that community as a way to promote and share and develop their own businesses across the estate itself. We delivered a survey through the app as well, asking for feedback from our tenants, and we were really pleased that tenant satisfaction scores had actually increased quite significantly, and it topped the 90% mark just at the end of last year. So we're incredibly proud of that, but now really keen that we keep it at those levels as well. And that open conversation that we can have through the platform and through our more informal face-to-face contact with our tenants. And just at the back end of last year, we onboarded a new guest services team. So we do have people, we don't replace people with going in to speak with our tenants, but we've recognised that we have the ability to talk to our tenants more on really important topics such as accessibility, sustainability, and even without significant capital investment, what we've noticed is that if we can actually help to improve, encourage and enhance the behaviours of the people that work in our stores, we can actually have a massive impact on our own sustainability. So responsible waste management, for example, ways that other people can help those within their community. They're all things that if we get large enough numbers to conform with, we can have great impact. We've spent a lot of time actually talking to our tenants. I mentioned the waste management, educating them on waste segregation and recycling. By opening up that community and having more workable relationships, we've managed to increase our recycling rates by 11% just last year alone. So the importance of community and the importance of communication is really significant.
Yeah, I think waste management actually seems to be a key topic of 2025. I think I've spoken to a number of people at property management level who are constantly looking at ways in which they can improve that process. So with that, and I love that All for One program, that just sounds fantastic. And so I guess the route forward through 2025, what are your sort of key objectives? What are you looking to try and achieve over this year?
Yeah, I've mentioned there about that satisfaction rate with our tenants. That's absolutely fundamental, and it's at a really good level at the moment. And that needs to be exactly the same for our visitors as well. In terms of 2025, I think it's absolutely right that we continue to build on what works. So that continued engagement with the wider city, our continued focus on social impact and the way that we can positively affect our communities. We have been very committed to working with young people and ensuring that they are very much part of a lot of our plans planning. We listen, we invite young people into our business. We learn from them. That will continue. And for 2025 in Liverpool, we've got some really exciting things to look forward to. I'm not a blue, but the blue half of the city can't wait for the new stadium to open at Bramley-Moore Dock. That will change some of the dynamics in the city centre, and we're very tuned in with the wider city to think about that good Liverpool welcome into the city centre, albeit let's hope there's a homecoming parade for the red half of the city. But our focus is absolutely on tenant satisfaction. We've got an exciting year ahead with regards to perhaps the largest number and most exciting number of new store openings. Some I can mention, some I can't. So we're not too many weeks away now from the opening of Uniqlo and Sephora that have been long awaited in the city. And a few more, as I say, I'm not obliged to be able to reveal who they are at this point, but they're two big names that we haven't had in the lineup that have recognised the potential in Liverpool. So a lot of work will go into the onboarding of quite a large number of tenants again this year. Continue to realise the value from tourists. When we walk around the estate, we hear so many different accents and so many different languages. We are bringing more translation services through, ensuring that we can meet and greet those visitors. As I say, many of them that come into the city, it's the first time they've discovered Liverpool, and we have a duty, and we're proud to be part of that wider team to give a really warm welcome to visitors, no matter where they travel in from. And I've mentioned their accessibility just when we were talking about the tenants. A lot of work has been done in the early part of this year on accessibility, and we've been really proud to work with the wider city again. Liverpool One, it doesn't matter how accessible it is, if you can't get to it because of the wider parts of the city, then it feels somewhat fruitless. But we've been really fortunate to work closely with the combined authority. We've developed and introduced some great apps in the form of Sociability and Way Maps that we've been piloting to ensure that Liverpool One really is for everyone. And that work will continue to work alongside organisations and individuals with lived experiences. Having worked in this area for the last few months now, I've come to learn that actually it's not for Liverpool One to tell people that we're accessible. It's for us to listen to people and hope that they tell us that we're accessible. And we're having those conversations. And that's a real focus for us throughout this year, and to ensure that everybody who works at Liverpool One, no matter who they're employed by, actually understand how to serve people, how to welcome people that may have different and the whole range of different accessibility needs, and we can continue to improve. So whilst we're proud of our estate and we'll keep it clean, we'll keep it safe and attractive, but we want the experiences to be what we expect them to be, and that's going to be our key focus throughout this year.
Yeah, that's a lot to get through. So if people are listening to the podcast and they're thinking about how they can either improve or start their journey around placemaking, from your kind of experience, having been through this whole journey now, what advice would you give people on just how to get going and how to improve?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think my advice would be you have to be authentic. You can't just go and pay for something and stage it for one weekend and look at the figures and go, did that work? Because the chances are it may have worked, but it's not sustainable. I think, as simple as it sounds, it's all about people. So listen to what people want and work with people to help you deliver your placemaking. It's not transactional. It's about investing in people. It's about investing in communities, into culture, and thinking about those experiences that really set you apart. But they've got to be authentic. If it doesn't feel authentic, the impact is nowhere near as good. Commercial transactions, there's a place for them. But if you're really trying to build a sense of place, you need to think about the communities around you and the people that you can collaborate with to help to deliver that in partnership. It can't be done in complete isolation.
Yeah, wise words. Donna, thank you so much. We've come to the end. We could carry on for another 2 hours, I think, but we really appreciate your time coming on the podcast and talking to us about this. It's such an important part of, I think, retail destinations now. There's often actually talked about, but perhaps I think what you've outlined there through this last half an hour or so is some practical things that you can actually do. So we really appreciate you coming on and talking us through them.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me.
No worries. That was Donna Howitt, the Director of Place Strategy at Liverpool One in the United Kingdom. Thanks very much, Donna, and thanks for everyone for listening.